Welcome to Waters World. I'm Jesse Waters. Remember when President Obama said this in 2016 about Trump telling crowds he'll bring jobs back to America?
When somebody says, like the person you just mentioned, who I'm not going to advertise for, that he's going to bring all these jobs back. Well, how exactly are you going to do that? What are you going to do? There's no answer to it. He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. Well, how exactly are you going to negotiate that? What magic wand do you have?
Apparently a pretty good wand. Jobs have been coming back in a huge way. Donald Trump nearly doubling the amount of manufacturing jobs that Obama added since taking office on a monthly basis. Joining me now, the executive vice president of the Trump Organization and son of President Trump, Eric Trump. Good to see you, Eric.
Abracadabra.
There it is. Wave it around.
Kind of amazing, huh?
I love the line. I think he said it on Twitter the other day. Jobs versus mobs.
Yeah,
and that's a great way to frame the election.
You know why he got jobs back and Obama couldn't? Because he's a businessman. He's a practical guy, and he's fought, and he's had backbone, and he's gone to war, and he's made this happen. I mean, we've got the best economy this country has practically ever seen, right?
Red hot right now.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Between GDP growth and unemployment, we've got the highest consumer confidence. We have markets at record highs. I mean, go down the list. 401ks are going crazy. I mean, by every metric. Hey, you know, even overseas, there are people who don't necessarily like us are saying that America is the strongest economy in the world. We would have never won that award.
No,
before.
I don't think Hillary would have achieved this amount of success. Look at some of these numbers right here. Steel workers getting a 14% raise. And when you think about the best cities for jobs right now, we're talking Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Hartford, Connecticut. I mean, look at these towns across America. This is a wide swath of success when you talk about blue-collar, manufacturing, middle-class jobs. That's going to really cut into the Democratic electoral base.
The Democrats forgot about the Rust Belt.
They did.
In fact, not only did they forget about the Rust Belt, go farther. They actually did everything they could to undermine the Rust Belt, right?
They did.
They took on the steel workers. They took on the coal companies. They did everything to overregulate. I mean, these jobs left, and I talk about this all the time, but I mean, the amount of factories we saw going around the country that were shuttered, that were closed, that had no life, the lights weren't on, but they all went overseas. They went to Mexico. They went to China. We rebuilt those countries, right, at the behest of the American worker, and it's why people are upset. It's why people are mad. And now all of a sudden you have 3.7% unemployment, more African Americans unemployed than ever before in history, more Hispanics employed than ever before in history, more females, same thing. I mean, people have jobs, and they're not working 3 jobs anymore, right? They're working 1 job, and they have benefits. And I mean, the country is doing amazingly well. We're the envy of the rest of the world now. Everybody wants to be America, and here you had Obama 2 years ago saying, well, what's Trump going to magically... You know, he's an amazing guy. He's a results-driven guy,
right.
and that's what America picked, and we need more business people in Washington. Honestly, these swamp creatures.
The swamp creatures. I think Trump is like tequila. He always wins.
Wow. I guess.
I know you don't drink
like
too
Fireball.
much, but I think for people that do drink tequila, tequila always wins. Let me talk to you about, your father says, Pocahontas. And as we know, she took a DNA test. Turns out she's 1/1000th, possibly Native American, possibly 1/1000th. And this is what your father had to say about her. Let's roll it.
Do you owe her an apology?
No, I don't.
What about the money that
I owe her. She owes the country an apology. What's the percentage? 1/1000?
I don't have the exact numbers.
Tell
in
me
front
when
of
you have the percentage. Tell me what the
What
percentage
about the
is.
money that you told her you would?
You mean
donate?
if she gets the nomination in a debate where I was going to have her tested? I'll only do it if I can test her personally. Okay, that will not be something I enjoy doing either.
That will not be something I enjoy doing either.
She actually wasn't 1/1000th. She's 1/1024th. It's actually substantially worse than
I'm
that.
sorry.
Let's not forget about the decimal place. I mean, this is the craziest, right? She's writing Pow Wow Chow cookbooks.
Let's dwell on that. She has a cookbook, Pow Wow Chow. Pow Wow, okay? And she calls herself a Cherokee Indian in the cookbook. And according to the Washington Post, a lot of these so-called recipes looked like they're just lifted from other recipe books.
They're plagiarized. The whole thing's crazy. She's not Native American. Like,
she plagiarized her book and she plagiarized her own DNA.
But the funny thing is she comes out, she does this like infomercial, right, where she's sitting there, the guy calls her up, I'd like to, I mean, Give me a break. You're 1/1024. You're less Native American than I am, and you are, Jesse. Like,
Eric, we had our DNA tests done on the 5, and I was 0.1% black. So I'm more black than Elizabeth Warren is Native American.
Well,
Think about that. Imagine if I went around and telling everybody I was black.
Even when the Cherokee Indians come out and they say, give me a break, like this is an insult to our tribe.
Yes, the tribe has spoken.
You know what? And honestly, that's why she's not going to win. And,
right.
And this is what people are sick and tired of, right? She was using it as a way to get into college. She was using it as a way to advance her career and get a better job. People don't want this nonsense.
No, and all the press is saying, the left-wing press, article after article, she shot herself in the foot. She is not a serious candidate anymore. I mean, it's widely accepted now that she is not going to get the Democratic nomination. And it's too bad, because she would have made a great opponent for President Trump. Let's talk about the caravan. Now, the AP is reporting that the caravan filled with Central American migrants heading north towards our southern border has now allegedly been turned around. And I know your father said he was going to cut off aid and he was going to send the military. This is a big win.
It is. Don't get tired of winning, Jesse. Don't ever get tired of winning.
Oh, we're not.
But it is. And he did something very smart. He told the countries where the people were coming from, you know, we give you a lot of foreign assistance. We give you a lot of financial aid. And guess what? We're not giving you that aid if you don't take care of this problem. We don't want to inherit your problem while we give you aid. You fix this problem. And he also has a great relationship with Mexico. It's the first time we've had a great relationship with Mexico in a long time.
Yeah, they just re-signed NAFTA.
Which, by the way, kills the Democrats because they always threw out the, you know, Trump's anti-Hispanic, Trump's. My father has an unbelievable relationship with Mexico. You see what they did with this whole caravan. He's winning, Jesse.
Yeah, that was very strong. And we know what happened in Europe when they had all these migrants flood across into that continent. That didn't go too well. And now Merkel, even herself, has said, it's something I regret. You don't want to make the same mistake twice. Rosie O'Donnell, she's back. Here's what she had to say.
When he was elected, what I wrote on Twitter was we should impose martial law till we make sure that the Russians weren't involved in the final tallies of the votes.
And Bob Mueller has indicted 13 Russians for election meddling.
And people were like, martial law, what's wrong with you? You're a lunatic.
Well, he wants to send the military to the border, so.
I would have sent the military to the White House to get him.
Military to the White House. Wow. Could you imagine if you had said about President Obama, we should send the military to the White House and take him out?
Game over.
Game over.
Game over. You know, she appears every 2 months, and then she embarrasses herself, and she disappears for 2 months. Guarantee you won't hear from Rosie O'Donnell for another 2 months. And then she reappears, and then she embarrasses herself. It's like this game of whack-a-mole.
Did she work for you? Because it seems like every time she says something, it helps the president.
You know what?
Is he paying her, real honestly?
The sad thing about it, this country is doing, despite this nonsense and the noise and the rhetoric and the Rosie O'Donnells and the, you know, Pocahontases and everybody else, this country is doing so well. America has never done better. By every metric, we are crushing it. I mean, could you imagine if these people just got on board and said, you know what? Hey, we might differ on this thing and this little thing, but let's push forward because we're thriving as a nation.
That's never going to happen. The Democratic Party is never going to reach across the aisle. I don't think on any issue.
That's why he's going to keep on winning. Honestly, don't get sick of this.
You think that's going to help because there is such obstructionists? That's helping him?
America might have people on the right. They might have people on the left. What America doesn't like, what I don't like, is radical, right? And they have become a mob. The left has become a mob, the vast majority of them. You see Antifa. You see them lighting pickup trucks on fire. You see them yelling at people in restaurants when they're going out to a nice dinner with their wives. So the 1 day a week with Ted Cruz, you saw what happened.
Yeah, they're making Ted Cruz look like a sympathetic character.
Scratching at the Supreme Court doors while making fun. I mean, people aren't into this stuff.
I know.
People want civility. People want, hey, if you differ a little bit, fine.
And it's honestly ironic because the left has accused President Trump of being uncivil, yet every time they go outside in public, they're the most uncivilized group of people. Like you said, they firebombed a limousine during the inauguration. Someone was almost stabbed when he was running for office. There was another person in Minnesota assaulted, punched in the face, and given a concussion. So this isn't just, a bunch of protesters. These are really hardcore agitators looking for trouble.
They're losing. They're losing. They don't have a message. They want to double people's taxes, which would put this country into a recession in about 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, and socialized health care.
They want socialized health care. They want to eliminate law enforcement. They want to, quote unquote, abolish ICE, and they want to attack plastic straws. That's literally their platform.
Save our straws, Eric.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And he's doing an unbelievable job. And He's going to win this thing again. You watch. He's going to win
All
this
right.
thing again, and America's going to be better off because of it.
All right, America First, Eric Trump, thanks for coming in. All right.
Good to see you.
A witch, get this, is going to be on Water's World. She is going to cast a hex on Brett Kavanaugh. Stick around for that. But first, an exclusive interview with a man at the center of Spygate, George Papadopoulos, in Water's World. Republicans renewing their push for the president to declassify records from the FBI's Trump-Russia probe, including possible information that could help clear Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos. As one of the key figures in the Mueller investigation, Papadopoulos has had his life turned upside down. He and his wife, Simona, join me now ahead of his closed-door hearing before the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees next week. All right, George, let's just start this at the very beginning because it's a little complicated, okay? When you were involved with the Trump campaign back in the summer of 2016, you were invited to go to Europe, and this is when it all started. Am I wrong? Who invited you over there and why?
So when I was officially part of the campaign, I was living in London, actually, at the time. So I was working for this group called the London Center for International Law Practice, which now we find out is some sort of obscure, shady front for something that it wasn't.
So you were working for a group that you didn't realize was a front group?
That's what it seems like. I don't know that it's
Okay.
a front, but people now, after a year of research into this organization, it looks like it was some sort of front for Western intelligence type of people.
Okay, so a Western intelligence front group you believe you were working for, unbeknownst to you at the time.
Yeah.
What was the first meeting that set this thing in motion?
So I'm officially a part of the campaign, I guess, around March 11. And then I tell this group, look, I'm leaving London. I'm going to go back to the U.S. because I'm joining Trump. But for some reason, they wanted to bring me to Rome with them on some business trip to this university. I had no idea what it really was. It's called Link Campus.
Okay.
So then after I look into this school, after I've had time this past year to look into these places I was going back and forth to, it's some sort of training school for Western spies.
Okay, so they bring you over to Rome at some point, and you believe you were involved with another Western intelligence front group there, and you had no idea. So then what happened?
So then, all of a sudden, I randomly am introduced to this person named Joseph Mifsud.
Okay, Joseph Mifsud.
That's right.
And who is that?
Joseph Mifsud is the infamous professor who is allegedly this super Russian spy who had the one piece of information that no one else on this planet had about Clinton's emails.
Okay, so you meet with this guy, Mifsud. And what was the reason for the meeting? Who set the meeting up?
So that's the key point. The point is that the London Center for International Law Practice set up this meeting between Joseph Mifsud and I.
So it was set up by, you believe, a Western intelligence group.
Yes.
And Western intelligence, I mean, these are the Europeans, these are the English, and these are supposedly our allies.
That's right.
And so they set this meeting up with Mifsud. And what did he tell you about Clinton emails specifically?
So let's fast forward, though. So then we're having a couple back and forth meetings, Mifsud and I, where he's introducing me to decoys. And what do I mean by decoys? He tells me a week after I meet with him that I have to introduce you to Putin's niece.
Okay.
Okay. And at the time, of course, I'm...
You're laughing because it sounds preposterous.
Exactly. At least she's the Russian spy. Leave me alone with the Russian spy story, right? We have the Putin's niece in the picture.
Okay.
We don't need me.
Okay. So Putin's so-called niece, they say they're going to set you up with.
So,
okay.
exactly. So a week after I meet him in Italy, he's on fire. He wants to introduce me to Putin's niece. He's the apparent insider to Moscow, to the world. He says he can introduce me to the world. So I say, okay. I had no background at all in U.S.-Russia relations. But then I happen to run into the one person on the planet who really is the inside man of Russia, and then, of course, he has the one piece of information that everyone on the globe wanted. And that's not really what I believe at this point.
Okay, so what exactly did he say about Hillary's emails to you?
Yeah, so after he introduces me to the fake niece of Putin, who we later find out is just a Russian student, about a month later, 3 weeks after that, he's like, hey, let's go get breakfast in London.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I had no idea what he wanted to talk about. And then he just drops his bomb on me.
What does he say specifically?
He's like, I have information that the Russians have thousands of Hillary Clinton's emails. I never heard the word DNC. I never heard the word Podesta. I never heard anything like that. And I think actually just the day before he told me this information, I think April 26, 2016, Judge Napolitano was on Fox News actually openly speculating that the Russians might have Hillary's emails. So
because the Russians may have hacked her server before she deleted all of them. That was the theory at the time.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And that
okay, so when he told you that Russians had thousands of Hillary's emails, what did you do next? Did you tell anybody?
So, I've been asked this question a million times, and what I can say is...
Well, I asked it the best.
You do ask it the best, and that's why I'm going to give you the best answer. And the answer is that I have absolutely no recollection of telling anyone on the Trump campaign about this information.
Okay.
What I did do...
What did you do?
...was I gossiped about it with the Greek foreign minister, just like diplomats do. I'm not a diplomat, of course, but, people in policy circles just gossip about rumors.
So you told the Greek, then what?
Yeah, and then I told Australian High Commissioner Alexander Downer the same information.
Okay, so you're what? You're at a social event and you run into Alexander Downer, who at the time? The Australian what?
Yeah, so let's backtrack a second, because there's this misunderstanding that I just run into this person randomly and
you believe you were set up again?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so you were manipulated into a meeting with Alexander Downer, who was an Australian diplomat.
Yeah,
and a Clinton donor.
Yeah, so Alexander Downer is no random diplomat. This was the head of the equivalent of the CIA of Australia for around 17 years.
Okay.
He was the foreign minister, and now he was the top diplomat in London of Australia.
So you told him, hey, I heard from Joseph Mifsud. How did you broach the subject?
No, this is the point. The point is that this meeting came about through very suspicious circumstances, through two intermediaries, and then he randomly wants to meet with me after I humiliate David Cameron in the UK press, after he was calling Donald Trump stupid for his...
So he meets, and then what happens?
Yeah, so then what happens is he basically starts becoming very belligerent, talking to me, saying that Trump is a horrible person, all your ideas in the Middle East, my personal ideas, because that was my business, was the energy business in Israel. He's like, they're a threat to British interests. And I have absolutely no memory whatsoever of ever talking about emails with this person.
So you say you never spoke to him about emails, but Downer, went to who? The FBI, and said, this gentleman who's working for the Trump campaign, George Papadopoulos, told me about Hillary's emails and some Russia connection. Is that what you believe happened?
That's, I guess, what the media is saying. All I know is I told the FBI directly to them that I felt that he was recording my meeting with them.
You went to the FBI after you met with this Australian diplomat.
During my discussions with the FBI, I told them that I think this guy was recording my conversation.
Very interesting.
The meeting was very weird. I had, let's say, 4 or 5 very strange meetings throughout the campaign that left an indelible mark on my memory, and this was one of those.
So
meetings.
now, all right, so then you've gotten now yourself involved in this huge situation, this international espionage situation. Were you ever spied upon, or were they tapped? Were your emails looked into? Do you have any idea?
All I can say that I know that's public now is that I had Stefan Halper, which was this Cambridge professor who was working on behalf of British intelligence, luring me to London so that the British would spy on me, and it's all linked into the UK.
So then it's Stefan Halper, who people believe is a CIA agent. Is that what the word on the street is?
The word on the street
because he was paid by the Obama administration a pretty nice sum of cash.
The word on the street is that this guy was like a dual agent of the MI6 and the CIA.
Okay, so then he brings you back to London at another point, and you believe you were surveilled there.
I was.
You were?
Yeah, I was. I mean, it's a public record.
So then you had to testify in front of Robert Mueller, and I guess he caught you up in some sort of perjury trap. I know that's complicated. I've heard you say what happened there. Perjury traps, they're easy to walk into, and I guess maybe you weren't completely honest, but I understand what happened there. He got you, and you're going to serve some time now. You've been sentenced to how long?
To 14 days.
To 14 days. So after all this, you're going to testify next week on Capitol Hill. What is your theory about what happened in 30 seconds?
I think I was set up by Western intelligence. I think most of these meetings that I had encountered with were all orchestrated. I don't know by who, but certainly we now have evidence that at least one of these meetings was orchestrated by Western intelligence, and that was Stephen Halper.
For the purpose of what?
For the purpose of spying on me, probably for my business ties to Israel I had a very prominent role in, and secondly to try and probably sabotage the Trump campaign through me.
Okay.
And if I can add something, the link between me and George is the Professor MIFSU, the London Center and the Link Campus. So all this asset of intelligence from the Western intelligence, as far as I know, are our common connection, and I end up being in the public image the spy, which I happen simply to work for the same.
You're not a spy, right? You better not be.
Absolutely
not. You better not be spying on Water's World.
No, and I can't wait the moment the FBI will. First of all, I was interviewed by the FBI,
right.
So if I was a spy, by this time I was probably in some jail in the United States and not here with Water's World.
All right, well, good luck next week, and we'll be following it. Thanks, you guys, for coming in.
Thank you so much.
I
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, an Antifa thug mocks a 9/11 widow's dead husband. Wait till you see this video. And later, Rush Limbaugh on the unhinged left.
Shake it, break it, make it bounce.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Anita Vogel. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are denouncing Saudi Arabia over its claim that columnist Jamal Khashoggi was killed in a fistfight. The kingdom confirmed his death yesterday, more than 2 weeks after the government critic disappeared inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. President Trump calling the story credible and saying he will work with Congress on a response. And a pair of high-tech satellites are on their way to Mercury, the rocket carrying them blasting off from South America. It's a joint mission by the European and Japanese space agencies. Scientists hoping to learn more about the planet's mysterious iron core. It'll take 7 years to get there. The price tag, about $1.5 billion. I'm Anita Vogel. Now, let's take you right back to Water's World.
We've seen them attack conservatives and destroy college campuses, but now Antifa is sinking to a new low, with one protester targeting a woman who lost her husband on September 11th.
Why are you trying to block me? I'm trying to walk here.
I obey traffic signals.
You're a snarky little idiot. Shut the up.
Try something.
I'm not going to punch you. I'm not like your husband. I'm not going to punch you.
I'm not married.
I'm not like your boyfriend or your cop boyfriend who's gonna knock you out, so don't worry.
My husband died in 9/11.
Good for him. Good. Good. Those NYPD were a bunch of sodomizing immigrants with their bully sticks. So yeah, your husband should probably rot in the grave.
Wow. Joining me now, actor Dean Cain. So, Dean, I mean, I can't even control myself. I wouldn't have been able to sit there and listen to that. I don't condone violence, but this guy should have been knocked out for what he said. He's ugly. This is the face of evil, these Antifa people. I mean, how do you even handle something like that out there on the streets?
Well, if you actually extend that video, you find out that someone decided to handle that later and walked across the street to confront that guy and said, "You talking about my mom?" And that guy turned tail and ran.
Oh, wow.
Took off running.
Typical.
No big shocker there. No big shocker. But the things that he's saying, I mean, like picking on, 9/11, a 9/11 victim, the firefighters and the first responders and the police officers that we lost there. It's insane. It just goes to show you all he was trying to do was bully, harass, provoke, and push this woman into responding. And she seemed pretty calm. So something tells me maybe she was, I don't know, exercising her Second Amendment right. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he went after pretty much everybody, like you say, police, firefighters, women, dead husband. It doesn't get any worse than that. But I think it's important to show the audience this type of behavior coming from the radical left, because people need to know what they're up against. And on the streets, you're up against this type of person, and it's scary.
It's not just the streets, Jesse. It's happening on Twitter. It's happening in social media all the time. People are saying stuff like this. I mean, it reminds me of my little Tom Arnold dust-up the other day where he was calling me a racist and anti-LGBT and this stuff. And then I actually ran into him. And I said, what are you talking about? You called me racist, things I'm absolutely not. And he completely was like, oh, no. I didn't mean you. I meant they're using you and this and that. And then after we have our little dust-up, he goes back on Twitter and starts yelling about how he should have knocked me out. And I'm
what a coward. Wait, so he was on Twitter and like taking shots, and you got in his face and said, hey, bro, what the heck? And he then chilled out, and then the minute you left, he's back on Twitter saying the same thing. What a weasel.
Exactly.
What a weasel.
Yeah, well, that's what I called him. Actually, I called him a cowardly, slanderous weasel was, I think, my exact words. But you know what? It's the thing, but this comes from someplace. People think they're allowed to do this because Maxine Waters is saying, confront people, do this in the restaurants, chase your senators down in the hallways, in the elevators. Hillary Clinton saying, oh, there's no reason to be civil. It's coming from somewhere, and it's dangerous, dangerous stuff because someone's going to get hurt. It's not going to end well.
Yeah, Maxine Waters, no relation. She gave birth to a lot of this stuff, and it's scary. They don't like cyberbullying. They're big against cyberbullying, but I guess they're okay with bullying in the streets, actual bullying. I want to talk to you about Rush Limbaugh. So he was on Sean Hannity's show, and he had this to say about the possibility of Hillary being in the White House right now. It's frightening. Roll it.
They don't even want to make America great. They resent the whole idea of America becoming great. They resent the idea of America as a superpower running the world for good. I shudder to think, with Hillary Clinton in the White House and all of her cronies and all the cabinet positions, and the validation of all of these oddball, weird, perverted left-wing behaviors becoming more and more normalized, and politics and government's role being to address their grievances, and we become a country of nothing but a bunch of victims, constantly angry, demanding that somebody do something about it.
Can you imagine if we'd had President Hillary Clinton right now? I mean, just think about it. We never would have known about Spygate. We would have not ever had this type of GDP growth. We never would have known Elizabeth Warren wasn't even Native American. Just think about the consequences.
1,024th.
Yes, excuse me.
Yes.
What do you think?
1,024th. I don't always agree with Rush, but I didn't hear him say anything there that I disagree with.
Wait, you don't. Wait, Dean, you don't always agree with Rush. He's right 99.9% of the time. You must disagree with him about that 1.1%, I think.
Well, it's not a whole lot. I don't listen to it, to be honest, that much. Right. But he said some things that sometimes I go, maybe, maybe not. But that, I think, is spot on. I am very, very happy that President Trump is our president. Thank God for that. I do shudder to think of the idea of what would have happened had Hillary become president. All these things that have been unearthed, business as usual. I'm so happy that things have been shaken up, and I feel a lot better about things moving forward. I sleep well at night, Jesse.
Yeah, you look like you've had your beauty rest, Dean. Now, Limbaugh also predicted this for the midterms. Listen to this.
We hold the House and we increase the Senate. Because I think that's justice. I think that's just. I think the Democrat Party deserves to lose in the single biggest electoral landslide defeat in my lifetime because of the actions they've taken just in the last month.
What do you think about that theory that they deserve to lose because of the way they've behaved?
Well, I think it's an interesting theory and may actually hold some water, if you will.
Yes.
I think so, because I didn't want to go out on the limb and say, it's going to be a red wave and it's going to happen this way. But the Democrats, with the whole Kavanaugh hearing and the things they've been saying, has not been good behavior at all. So I think it's a very, very distinct possibility. I know where my votes are going. I'm an independent, so I know where my votes are going, and they're going to go red this November 6th. There's no question about it. And if that does happen, woo, it's going to be interesting.
All right, there he is. Black leather jacket, black T-shirt, chain, black slick hair. Dean Cain, everybody. Up next, the witch who's going to cast a spell on Brett Kavanaugh is here. But first, Diamond and Silk on Farrakhan and the Caravan. Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan in the news again for making these hate-filled remarks about the Jewish faith.
In fact, to the members of the Jewish community that don't like me, thank you very much for putting my name all over the planet. So when they talk about Farrakhan, call me a hater, you know what they do? Call me an anti-Semite. Stop it. I'm anti-termite.
Wow. So far, we haven't heard many people on the left condemn his remarks at all. And Twitter, where he posted his comments, hasn't suspended his account, even though the social media giant has been known to ban conservative voices for much less. Joining me now with Reaction, Diamond and Silk. So, ladies, I don't think people should be banned from Twitter at all. I'm a big free speech guy. But there is a lot of hypocrisy going on with what Twitter does. And, you know, Farrakhan's just he's a hate preacher.
Well, yeah, he is. He is very hate-filled. No one is calling him a hater. He's already shown that he is a hater.
That's right.
Because he have a problem with Jewish people. Listen, when it comes to social media platforms like Twitter, yes, they take and they don't want people's freedom of speech, they claim, to be weaponized, or their ideas, their expressed ideas to be weaponized, yet they're okay with using algorithms to weaponize conservative voices.
That's right.
So let's take a look at all of this here, the whole thing. If you are a left-leaning liberal and if you spew hate on these social media platforms, it's okay. But if you talk anything patriotic, if you talk about the love of this country, what they're going to do is they're going to cut you off. So I think it is some true hypocrisy there. And then look at Louis Farrakhan, who he hang around.
That's right.
The Maxine Waters, the Obamas, the Bill Clintons. They were on stage together.
Keith Ellison, I believe, too, right?
Yeah, and people need to also understand the insultingness that he did. You know, it's like, for Jews, it's like termites is to Jews what the N-word is to black people. And people need to understand that coordination. So he wasn't just saying that just to say that. He was saying that to make a statement, and it was insulting.
All right. We've had enough of Louis Farrakhan. Let's move on to somebody else. T.I., the rapper, very upset with Donald Trump and Kanye West for the meeting that they had. So his response was to cut some video where Melania Trump, an impersonator, is in the Oval Office and being portrayed as a stripper. I mean, come on, guys. You don't want to go and do this. I mean, he's trying to say that Trump is racist, but he ends up just looking sexist. What are you doing, T.I.?
Well, you have to understand, T.I. don't have respect for himself, nor does it look like he have respect for his daughters. In order to, when you take and you objectify a woman's sexuality and you depict that as if that's the first lady, that is so disrespectful. T.I., how low you can go. And so I'm for everybody. I'm not buying your music. I don't want to hear nothing else that you have to say because you're very disrespectful.
And not only that, he don't have respect for women. That's why his wife is probably trying to divorce his behind right now, because he is a disrespectful individual.
All right, the ladies weighing in on the T.I. marriage. I didn't see where that was coming from. All right, lastly, the caravan, running around in Mexico. Here's Donald Trump on that.
It's going to be an election of the caravan. You know what I'm talking about. But a lot of money's been passing to people to come up and try and get to the border by election day because they think that's a negative for us. Number one, they're being stopped. And number two, regardless, that's our issue.
Yeah, Kavanaugh and the caravan, the right hitting that hard right now before the midterms, ladies.
Well, they should, because this is all paid-to-me propaganda.
Yes.
You know, why wait to now, to the midterms, for all of these influx of illegal aliens to start trying to cross our borders? If you're seeking asylum, go to the ports of entry. But when I look at these people coming, these people look healthy. They look like they've been well-fed. So what is going on here? Is this really happening? Is this really true? Are you really seeking asylum? Are you running from distress? Or are you just trying to make a statement? I think that everybody in this country should take a look at this here. Take a look at the left on how they are condoning this here. Get out and vote red, vote Republican.
And it is manufactured. It is made up. And you just look at how it's orchestrated and it's organized. And see, this here is going to backfire on the Democrats because it's letting the American people see exactly who these Democrats are going for. They're going for these illegal aliens over American citizens.
All right. Also, caravan of people going to see Diamond and Silk's new movie. Check that out. All right, ladies, thank you guys very much.
Thank you for having us.
All right, up next, a witch joins Water's World. I can't even believe this is happening. The left is still so angry over the recent confirmation of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh that some are resorting to witchcraft to hurt him. That's right. A coven of witches is gathering in Brooklyn as we speak to place a hex on Justice Kavanaugh in hopes that evil will come his way. Earlier, I spoke with Dakota Bracciale, who is the leader of this occult group. All right, so Dakota, you're a witch.
Yeah.
And you are going to use witchcraft against Justice Kavanaugh.
Yep.
What is the ritual that you are undertaking?
Well, like traditionally in witchcraft, we don't share, most people don't share the exact particulars of the ritual.
Can you give me a hint?
Well, there will be effigies, photos, graveyard dirt, coffin nails, open flames, the whole bit.
Whoa, whoa. So will an effigy of Kavanaugh be burned by the witches?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a picture of Kavanaugh will be burned?
Yes.
What will you be doing with the graveyard dirt?
So that goes in a container spell, which is basically when you take a jar, fill it with ingredients, seal it, and then burn candles on it. And it's like a continuing spell that you can then re-up on anytime.
Is there a cauldron involved?
Yeah, that's where the fire will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has these things worked in the past, these hexes?
Yeah, we feel like they have.
How have you proven that they've worked? And who else have you hexed?
Well, we hexed Trump last summer. We did 3 cumulative rituals. So there was one in June, one in July, one in August. And since then, a lot has come out. I mean, the hex... So a lot of people take it as like hexing is to like make that person die or like do something horrible to them. But it all really depends specifically on like what you're trying to do, right? And that's all in the wording and all in the intention. For us, it's about exposing these people because we believe that they are fundamentally dishonest and fundamentally unethical. And so we want that to be exposed.
Perhaps the Trump hex didn't work because the president is winning over and over again.
Well, I think that depends on how you define winning. On our side of things, we feel that since last summer, we have the Russia probe, which has led to, I mean, how many convictions does it take to figure out that it's not necessarily a victory so far?
So you believe the hex on Trump worked, and now you will be hexing Brett Kavanaugh as well. Are you a peaceful witch? Or are you an evil witch? How would you describe yourself?
I don't necessarily ascribe either to myself because I don't think that anything in our universe or in our world is as cut and dry as good and evil. I don't think that people are fundamentally good or evil. I think that everyone has...
Well, excuse me. Water's World is good.
Oh, really? Okay. That's a relief, I guess. But that also depends on your definition of good. I mean, for example, religiously, right? Like every religion in the world would have a different definition for what the right action would be. There's some general tenets that most of them adhere to, but I mean, everyone has their different idea of morality and what constitutes a moral action.
Do you think that the witchcraft that you guys are pursuing makes the left and anti-Kavanaugh and anti-Trump people look a little silly?
I really wouldn't mind if it did. I mean, I think, you know, one of the things I do want to make sure that we get to discuss between us is this isn't just about the right. This is absolutely also about the left. I mean, I've said repeatedly...
Oh, well, you know what? You should cast a spell on Hillary Clinton.
I don't really...
She's actually already been cursed.
I don't
Leave
know
her
that
alone. What about Nancy Pelosi?
With my morals, I'm not really about, like, kicking someone while they're already down.
Well, isn't that what Eric Holder wants to do?
I don't know. I kind of feel like with Hillary, she's already not doing too well and needs to maybe a hex of silence would be good, just for a little while.
You're a Bernie bro, aren't you?
No, not
Are you
at
a Bernie
all.
witch?
No, not at all. I like a lot of what Bernie has to say. I don't agree with everything that he has to say.
Okay.
I think that in a lot of ways he will sort of espouse very hard leftist rhetoric and then in practice doesn't actually carry through with it.
Well, for a witch, you know a lot about politics.
You have to.
Dakota, thank you very much. Let's get a look at these rings.
Oh,
look
yeah.
at these rings and nails, everybody. Could we get a tight shot of that?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. Up next, last call. Time now for last call. Halloween just a week and a half away, and this viral video is going to make your head spin, literally. In less than 15 minutes, YouTube sensation and makeup artist Taylor R. shows you how to make it look like your head is upside down. Oh, you know what? I don't even need the makeup. I'm just going to have the witch do it to me for real. All right? That's all for us tonight. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Justice with Judge Jeanine is next. And remember, I'm Waters, and this is my world.